Hey there, good Tuesday afternoon. This is Victoria Hill, the Public Information Officer for the City of Billings. Excited to join you for a podcast and Facebook Live this afternoon. Here we are just a few days ahead of Thanksgiving, and so I wanted to bring two very important and special guests with us. We have our Assistant Fire Marshal, Jaime Fender, and also our Fire Marshal, one of our Deputy Fire Marshals, Becky Biggins. Sorry, Becky, I destroyed your name there. They're both joining us today to talk cooking, and then 1 minute, boom, there's flames, and you're in a panic and trying to figure out what to do from there.
Absolutely, and that doesn't make you an airhead whatsoever. I think most of us have had those incidents happen before. I think the best thing that we can do is stay calm, and we'll talk later on a little bit about what you can do and what the best way to do is if you have a fire in your house and how to handle that. But you're not alone.
Thank you. And some proactive tips that we have for folks listening or watching, those cooking tips, some things to do and some things not to do. Who wants to dive into this one and kind of tackle, how far away we should be from our cooking or our stove?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Victoria. So it's super important that when we're cooking that we stay attentive. Most of kitchen fires, a lot of them start because we're not paying attention. So we want to stay and keep an eye on the food. We want to stay in the home when cooking turkey and check on it frequently. Make sure you keep your floor clear so you don't trip over objects. That one I kind of wanted to delve into just a little bit more. Yeah. So we talk a lot about clean houses. So I do a lot of our public education, and I get to work with kiddos, and parents love because I always end up saying, make sure that you're keeping your space clean. When mom and dad tell you to do that, it's not just because they don't want your stuff all over the place, right, but it's actually a safety issue. So as investigators, and I'm sure Jaime can agree, periodically we'll have an incident that happens in a very well-kept house. It absolutely happens, but more often than not, you're more likely to have a safety issue if you have extra things lying around. Right. So that cleanliness, that tidiness is super important, especially in the kitchen. The reason we have so many fires in the kitchen is because things burn next to things that get hot. So we want to keep that space super tidy so we're not tripping and falling.
Right.
We want to make sure smoke alarms are working. And just another little plug here.
Go for it.
Billings Fire, we coordinate with Red Cross. And so we have smoke alarm program. We want to see one in every bedroom and then one per each floor per common area. If you don't have working smoke alarms in your home or you have questions about them, call us at the fire department and we'll send somebody out to go check your house and make sure that they're working and in date.
Oh, great.
Or install some if you need them. So no reason anybody in Billings needs to not have working smoke alarms.
And while we're on smoke alarms, check your carbon monoxide alarms too. You get a carbon monoxide alarm if you don't have a smoke alarm. While we're on that topic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you can call us for help with those if you need help with carbon monoxide alarms as well. So we've got some of those as well.
All right.
And then NFPA strongly discourages the use of turkey fires, which is true. I think everybody's seen the videos, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Look at some of those videos if you've never seen people using turkey fires. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and they're not encouraged, but I'm going to be again open and honest with you guys. It's how my husband plans to cook our turkey this year. So he's going to be in the middle of the yard. He's not going to overfill the oil. And if he does, if something happens, you'll be hearing from us, right?
No, it's a super good way to cook them. They're delicious, but people do have problems, like you said, because they have it too close to combustibles, and then sometimes they overfill, so you need to make sure your measurements are exactly right, so you're not going to have an oil splatter when you do it. And then also just making sure that the turkey is completely defrosted and patted dry, so there's not excess moisture.
And then lower it in slow. Yeah, because you see those things get out of control really quick.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah, they make that splash, and then, and then Thanksgiving is ruined. Yep. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, kids. Kids are so enthusiastic, so excited for the holiday. They really want to just get in the kitchen and help out, but truth is, they need to keep their distance from anything hot. Go ahead and dive into that one, guys.
Yeah, so Thanksgiving has turned into one of my absolute favorite holidays, especially as I get older. And I have 3 young kids, and that is something we are super cognizant of, is just what our kids are doing at all times, especially with Thanksgiving and there's so much stuff going on and there's family in and out and people walking around. It's just something to be super cautious of, to not leave things unattended, especially with little kids that are involved. So keeping children away from the stove, 3 feet, make sure your kids stay away from any hot food and liquids that can cause serious burns. We've actually had kids come to the fire station that have had that have had burns to their hands and their arms from cooking fires because they reach up and they grab a pot or they grab a handle that's leaning over the stove and then they dump the hot liquid or the whatever's cooking on the stove
Yeah.
onto their hands, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. So just be super, super cautious of what your kids are doing and not leaving things unattended. Be sure when you're using electrical cords, they're not dangling off of counters, so kids can reach up and grab them and pull them down. Keep matches and utility lighters out of the reach of children, and never leave children alone in a room with a lit candle or anything cooking for that matter.
All right. And the next topic I want to get into is something does go down, something happens. Like we mentioned earlier, there is that moment of panic of, oh no, what do I do? So I think this is, if anything, the part that people really need to listen to, because it's bound to happen maybe at least once in your life. But what should people do, I guess, if they start to observe a small fire either on their stove or even in their oven?
Yeah, I want to touch on that. So number one, and I'm going to start with this point, but if you have any doubt about fighting a small fire, we want you to get out.
Right.
Get out of the house and close the door behind you to help contain that fire. Fire needs that oxygen.
Right.
So closing doors is super important to help keep it as small as possible. But if there's any question if you can do something to mitigate that little fire safely, get out of the house and stay out of the house and call 911. If you do have a small cooking fire and decide to fight it, let's talk just some basic fire science, right? All right, so fire, to start and to stay, we need fuel and oxygen and heat, right? And nothing to inhibit that chemical chain reaction that's going on. So the best thing that you can possibly do to it is to remove one of those elements, one or more of those elements. So if you had a turkey in the oven, for example, a little oven fire, kind of like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
When that happens, we want you to turn off the heat and keep the door closed, right? Because then you're reducing that heat source and you're not adding extra oxygen to the situation. If you had a pan of oil, say a pan of oil started on fire on the stove, if you can safely smother the flames by putting a lid over the pan, sliding it, like kind of using it like a shield and sliding it over and then turning the burner off. That would be good. And then what's really important here is to leave the pan covered until it's completely cooled. Invariably, every year or so, we have somebody who decides they have this fire and they want to get the fire out of their living space, right? That's a very natural reaction. And so people try to move it out of their home. And then
And they
they've got...
think, it's a quick trip so they can grab it and get it out there before they get burned.
They usually, they'll get burned or they'll spill flaming oil throughout the house and damage themselves. It almost always ends up making the situation worse. So having an extinguisher handy is also a helpful thing if it's something that you can't contain but you think you can, and fire off that extinguisher. We had a little fire start in Billings recently that I investigated, and some extinguishers were used and it helped. It helped save a bunch of their property by a kid, actually. So educate your children on where you keep your fire safety things as well.
And I think one of the other natural reactions, you mentioned putting a lid or a pan over something on the stovetop that goes up in flames. That natural reaction is to want to fan out the flame and blow it out like you blow out a birthday candle. But when you have a fire of that size, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, your natural reaction is to want to put the fire out, but sometimes that's not the best course of action.
Yeah.
Like having it inside the stove, if you can just shut the stove and leave it, that's the best scenario for you. But it's just people's reaction. And it's okay to leave it too, and to just get out of the house and make sure everybody's accounted for. And another thing too is to talk to your kids about this so they understand.
Right.
If my smoke alarms are going off, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to go find the smoke? No, you are supposed to get out of the house. That is all we're worried about. Get out of the house, and then we'll deal with it when we get on scene.
All right, very good points, guys. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out there, share with folks as we head into that big Thanksgiving holiday?
I don't know about any more fire safety tips, but I just hope everybody has a beautiful holiday.
Yeah, thank you very much, Becky. Yeah.
Yep, I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, and I am encouraged to do a few more of these with the fire department. I mean, we are in the Billings PD's crime prevention center right now, so it's kind of like their territory, but they open up the space to me and I'm allowed to host these podcasts. So I really appreciate them opening up their doors in this room to us. But yeah, you can look for more of these podcasts with the fire department in the months to come. So if anyone wants a recap of any of the information that we went over, just head over to nfpa.org. They have a big banner right on their homepage with some Thanksgiving safety tips, and you see all these PDFs on your screen there. You can download any one of those, and even some activities for the kids so they can have that visual of exactly what does 3 feet look like, and a good reminder to stay out of that oven and stovetop zone and stay safe. Well, everyone, we want to say happy Thanksgiving from the city of Billings. Of course, the city offices will be closed, but the police department and the fire department, they are on call. And if anything terrible happens, never hesitate to call that 911. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and have a wonderful holiday.